Morning, it's Monday, the 26th of November, I think the 12th day of Kislev, Parshas Vayishlach. I once realized that, how many days are there in the Hebrew calendar? Does anybody know? How many days in the solar calendar?
365.
Did I already offend you, Ted?
No, one year, so you have to say it.
Thank you.
364?
The 365 days, 365 point something, that's why we had a 366 day every so often. And but how many days are there in the Hebrew calendar?
Is it 364?
No, close. No.
1 month less, yeah? Well, what's
No,
it? We have
no,
that, we have
no.
other
In the English calendar, we either have 30 days or 31 days. In the Hebrew calendar, we either have 29 or 30 days. So there is, how many days less would there be? Well,
360?
How do you know which? I don't know which days, which month are 30. Which
okay,
month are
so there's 354 days. We have 6 months that have 30 days. We have 6 months that have 29 days.
Oh, okay, it's even.
So 6 times 30 is 180. 6 times 29 is how many? 174. It makes it 354 days. So we're short 11 days. So that's why approximately every 3 years we add a 13th month to make up. So the solar and the lunar calendar coincide. I think I've said this already. You know what a blue moon is? You ever hear what's once in a blue moon? You know what a blue moon is? A blue moon is when there are 2 full moons in the month. Now, in what month? When two lunar months begin in a solar month, that means there's a new moon. So if January 1st happens to be the first day of Nisan, let's say, there's a new moon there because it's the first day of the month. On January 30th or 31st, it'll be the first day of the next Hebrew month, Iyar, so there'll be another new moon. So when the second new moon is called the blue moon. What does this have to do with Vayishlach? Can anybody figure it out? Vayishlach? Well, you could if you looked at the number. Vayishlach is 354. That's how many days there are in a Jewish calendar.
We're like idiots compared to you.
Yeah, because.
If I wasn't on camera, I'd respond.
Thank you for being kind.
Anyway, so I've always tried to come up, and I don't have the answer. I don't know why I even brought it up, but especially since we're so short on time. Vayishlach is the lunar month. It's the full month. It's a year. It's the lunar year, and what it has to do with this week's parsha, maybe somebody can think about it. Let me know. Why would the Torah begin with bless you, Dr. Berman?
No.
Excuse me? Morning, Ari.
Good morning, Mr.
Gesundheit. Okay. The Rambam says, I jotted down some notes yesterday. The Rambam says that a leader has to have shmini min hashmini of let me just say it in English. He has to have an eighth of haughtiness and feeling self-worth. An eighth of an eighth. How much is that, Tad? How much is an eighth of an eighth?
164?
A 64th. Yeah. Now, where does he get that from? He actually gets it from this week's parsha. Again, it would take any one of us, of course, including myself, 1,000,000 years to figure out where he gets it from this week's parsha. And it's a numbers thing.
But what's interesting about that, like you just said, a 64th, it's like, how a 60th is nullified by,
right,
but this
right.
is just a little bit more than a 60, so it's not quite nullified in the personality. the 164th.
164 would
Just
be
a little
more
bit
than
was it?
nullified.
Oh, right.
Because
it's
a
a smaller
60th
number.
alone
That's right. It's
would be nullified. So maybe we can think about how the 64 relates to the 60. But, it says in the Torah that Moshe was, Ish Moshe Anav Mikol Adam. Moshe was the most humblest man of any man that ever lived. Now, come on, give me a break. He spoke to God. He took the Jews out of Egypt. He performed miracles. He was the most important person ever on the planet from the beginning of creation. How could he be so humble? Didn't he know who he was? Didn't he realize that I'm speaking to God and nobody else is? That I'm doing these things? How can you be humble when you're so great?
Because he didn't think he was doing everything.
So exactly. So he figured whatever perfect, whatever he felt he was not his doing. He was graced with those things by God, and he has no right to be haughty about those things. But then again, you can't make yourself to a complete shmata. You have to earn respect. A rabbi is,
He was no pushover.
He was no pushover, exactly. So you have to know your place, and you have to know when you have to act as the leader and when you have to act as just amongst the people to be on their level. In this week's parsha, Yaakov is going to meet his brother. Now, his brother had a death warrant out on him. He was going to kill him. He knew that. His brother was angry at him for stealing the brachas from his father, even though he voluntarily, so to speak, sold his birthright to Jacob. Nevertheless, he may have argued that it was under duress. He was very hungry. When people are hungry, you can just walk any day into Bubby's and see, people go crazy. They don't
Cutting off their fingers
cutting
for
off
food,
right.
Disgusting.
They get all just combobulated. When they get up there, they don't know what to order, and then they have to go to the back of the line.
When they order, they don't get what they...
Right.
They don't order properly.
They don't order properly. When people are hungry, they do all kinds of things, and I don't want to make light of it, but people who went through the Holocaust will tell you that the only thing that was on their mind was food. Food is, when you're hungry, you get agitated, you get cranky. So he could argue that, he was under extreme duress and he just wanted that bowl of pasta fajol or whatever it was, 16 bean soup, whatever was made for him. Morning, Bob.
Morning, Bob.
So, nevertheless, his brother was quite upset with him, was out to kill him. So the parsha starts off that Yaakov sent, Vayishlach Yaakov malachim lefonav Elisabeth. He sent him malachim. Now, what does malachim mean? Angels. Sometimes malachim means messengers. Rashi is very quick to say that we're talking about real angels that he sent him. And what was the message he gave him? The message he gave him was very, very interesting message. And by the way, the root of all gematrias, the father of all gematrias, is in this week's parsha.
Lavan Garti.
Right. So he gives a message he tells the angels to give Lavan this message. Im Lavan Garti, with Lavan I've lived, and Va'echar Ata, and let me read the English. Say to Esav, I have sojourned with Lavan, I've lived with Lavan, and I have lingered until now. I've acquired oxen and donkeys, flocks, servants, and maidservants, and I am sending to tell my Lord to find favor in your eyes. So what is he doing? He's telling Esav, I'm coming from my father-in-law Lavan, and I am loaded. I'm a rich man, and I got it all. Now, is there any way to incense somebody more, your enemy, than to tell him how rich you are? Gentiles, if they hate a Jew, they hate a rich Jew even more than anybody else, because people are just jealous by nature. So here's a guy who wants to kill Yaakov, and he's feeding on it, and says, I'm a rich guy. But not only that, he tells him, Im lovan garti, with love and I've lived. Now, how do you spell garti? If you look at the letters, Rashi right away says, you rearrange it, it's taryag. 613. Follow? Both of you?
Yeah.
Follow it? Mm-hmm. So it's not only the gematria, it's actually the same letters rearranged. And he's telling Esav, his brother, that, and Rashi says that even though I've lived with Lavan, I've still been able to observe and to do all keep all these 630 mitzvahs. Isn't this strange? What does Esav care? Why is he telling him? He's telling him, I'm rich, and I'm a holy man, and I do all the mitzvahs. I mean, you
make him more agitated.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So I'll get back to that in a second. But Vayishlach is... Oh, okay, then he goes on, and he gives him the furthest message, and then comes a verse where he says, Katonti mikol hachasodim mikol emes asher sisas avdecho ki b'makli avarti es hayarden. So I'll read it in English. Jacob became very frightened because of all this, and he said,
He's talking to Hashem.
He's thinking to himself, and maybe he's talking to Hashem. He says, I have been diminished by all the kindness and by all the truth that you have done your servant. For with my staff I crossed the Jordan and now become two camps. He's telling God, or to himself, he's praying, whatever it is, he's telling, maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe you've done for me. Maybe now you're going to stop doing for me. Maybe I'm not worthy of your kindness anymore, God. And I'm really worried that my brother's going to kill me. So here's the contrast. He just said that I've been a good boy. I've kept all the 613 mitzvahs. I've been flawless. I haven't sinned. I haven't done anything. Yet, he right away tells God, maybe I'm not worthy. So we see here how he, even though he knows that he's the top Jew on the planet at the time, because Abraham had died already, because that's when the whole thing happened. When Abraham died, and that's when he served the soup to Esav, and Yitzchak was already a very old man, and he was fading away. His eyes already had gone on him, and he was, Rashi says that somebody who's blind is considered like a dead person already.
You want to connect it to Moshe?
Excuse me?
You want to connect this to...
No, I'm going to connect that. I'm going to say that here's Yaakov who says that he's great, and yet he says, maybe I'm not worthy. So we see the humility, just like Moshe, we see the humility that even though he feels he's great, yes, Mr. Goldstein.
Okay.
Or should I say Rabbi Goldstein?
You said he was without sin, right?
Right.
Yet he knew he stole his brother's birthright. So how can he be without sin?
He didn't steal it,
It was on his
he
mother.
bought it.
No, but he could have denied it. He could have said, no, it's my brother's and I don't accept it.
No, his brother
because-"
sold it to him. Remember the bean? He
But
was hungry?
why would he accept it if he knew he was taking something he didn't really deserve?
No, you're not talking about the birthright, you're talking about the blessings.
The birthright too, isn't that part of the blessing?
No, there were two transactions. First, he bought the birthright from his brother. That was a legitimate deal. They each had attorneys there, and they signed a contract, and he bought it rightfully, and there was an exchange of consideration. You get soup, I get the birthright. Okay? Esav says, I don't need it, I'm going to die, it's not worth anything to me. He didn't believe in the world to come, and that was finished. The next chapter was when they went to get the blessings from the father. Jacob rightfully felt it belonged to him. He had bought the birthright, and he deserves that blessing.
Why didn't he tell his father who he was then?
Well,
The father didn't.
we spoke about that one day. He actually never lied to his father.
But the acceptance of omission is sort of like a lie.
Okay. Well, no, he felt that it was coming to him. He felt it was coming, but it is problematic. And by the way, the rabbis ask, it still doesn't smell right.
Right.
It doesn't smell right.
It's not that pure.
It's not that pure. Okay. And they say that's exactly the Torah's point. The point is that sometimes you have some bad things that happen going back. You may, if everything was perfect with them, then we can say we can never be like them. They were perfect. They're like angels. We're humans. No, they're humans also. They also did a little hanky panky here and there.
If he wouldn't done such a thing, now Ishmaelim or Esav would control all the Jewish nation.
Right.
Then who we were? They would kill us. They would destroy us.
So let me just get back to this 8th of 8 because we're going to get.
So he did the right thing to get.
He did the right thing. The way he did it
for his children, for the right people.
Like I said yesterday in or Shabbos and Shul, I said sometimes you can do the right thing because you think you're doing it for God, but you got to be careful how you do it because you can be hurting other people's. And sometimes the other way around. Sometimes you actually can be doing something wrong, but if you. But
at the time was him and his brother, and,
Right.
and he felt that he deserved to get the blessing because his children should.
So let me just finish this, Benny, please. Okay, so we have 2 questions pending. I didn't cover anything that I want to. We have 2 questions pending. The one is, why did he tell him? Why did he incite him with I'm rich and I'm a holy man and I've done all the mitzvahs? How did that help the conflict? That's one question we have pending. The other thing is, how does the Rambam know about this 1/8 of 1/8 business? Okay, and he gets it from this week's parsha because Vayishlach is the 8th parsha from the beginning of the Torah. Okay, Bereshis, Noach, Lech Lecha, Vayera, Chayesora, Toldos, Vayetze, Vayishlach is the 8th.
Right.
And so if you go to the 8th one, which is Vayishlach, now count 8 verses. The 8th pasuk is Katonti, that I am diminished, I'm small. So we see that from the 8th of an 8th, that's where he learns that's how you should be.
How interesting.
That you should be, and there's a lot said about this 8th of an 8th. In fact, usually, Parshas Vayishlach comes out on Hanukkah. Now we're a little off, and then you have the 8 candles. And of course, there's an argument between the house of Shammai and the house of Hillel, whether you start with 1 candle and you go up to 8, or you start with 8 and you diminish.
Right.
And in this world, we do everything with the exception of 3 things, like the Beis Hillel. When Mashiach comes, it will be the reverse. Everything will be like Beis Shammai. So Yaakov is saying Katonti, that we diminish, that we start the 8th, the 8 candles from the 8th day Hanukkah, we Katonti, we diminish it. We start with 8, 7, 6, and so on and so forth. Now, let me just end with this, that this is the message that Yaakov was sending to Esav. We actually, if you take a look at the blessings that Yitzchak gave his sons, very similar. Almost word for word. The blessings that he gave Yaakov is that you should get from the fat of the land and from the dew and everything, and you shall rule over your brother.
So it's all come to pass.
Okay, and he gave Esav the same thing, almost word for word. Look at it later. I don't have time now to review it.
Okay.
Read it
Okay.
in English,
Okay.
word for word, practically the same, with one little caveat. He gives Esav all the blessings, and he puts in a sentence over there. Maybe I'll read you this sentence. Esav comes crying, and he says, "Come on, bless me too." And Yitzchak answers him, "Vayan Yitzchak lamates." So Isaac, his father, answered him, "Behold, you shall have the fatness of the earth shall be your dwelling, and the dew of the heavens shall be yours. By your sword you shall live, but your brother you shall serve. Yet it shall be that when you are aggrieved, you may cast off his yoke upon your neck." So he tells him. Now, amen. So the word he uses is torid, when you shall be lowered. Torid means lowered. Now torid is taryat, it's 614. You look at the word. We have a thing that we have to observe the 613 mitzvahs.
I mean,
if you go over with one, the Torah says you shall not add one single thing to my mitzvahs, because if you do, it's like you negate everything I've said. You can't make your own rule. If you want to add even just one mitzvah, it means you feel you're a God too. You basically don't believe in God if you add one thing. You have to have tzitzis on four corners of your garment. If you add a fifth one, it's punishable by
It's
death.
almost like idolatry.
It's almost like adding another thing.
Yeah.
So Yaakov is sending Esav, look, I got all the blessings from my father, that I should be rich and so on and so forth, and I shall rule over you. The only time you take over is when I don't do my job, when I don't believe in God anymore. Here's the message: I have kept all the Taryag mitzvahs. I did Taryag, and just like the blessing that I'll be rich became true because I kept my part of the bargain, that I did the mitzvahs. So that blessing that I shall rule over you is also going to stay true. So watch out. And that was the message. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Wow, wonderful.